Hello and welcome. My name is Sharon Grant and I'm the General Manager here at Modern Cloud. I'm so pleased that you've been proactive in saying yes to attend this cybersecurity training. I promise you it will be so valuable and you could literally save hundreds of thousands of dollars, not to mention the damage to your brand plus lost productivity. At Modern Cloud, we offer a fully managed as a service private cloud solution where all your data is stored locally wherever you are in the world. We're ISO 27001 accredited amongst many other certifications. So please do pop along and check us out at moderncloud.com. My aim here today is to share some valuable information about how you can protect your business on a couple of different fronts. Now, I'd love for you to be able to ask questions. So if you're watching this through LinkedIn, just pop in a question, we'll get an answer to you. You can also contact us directly through LinkedIn. Our phone numbers are there. You can reach out and give us a call. I'd love to answer your questions for you. So please do feel free to reach out and we'll get those answers to you. Now, I do have to explain a little. I am not a cyber security solutions architect at all. I know a lot about cybersecurity. I've been in the IT industry for close to a decade, and I've learned so much in that time. What makes me really great about delivering this message to you is that I speak your language. I'm not a tech, so I can break this rather can be complex topic down into bite-sized chunks that are easy to digest. Now, I don't know everything. I do know a lot, but I don't know everything. So if I'm not able to answer your question when you reach out to me, I have access to some very, very smart humans, wonderful engineers here at Modern Cloud who are expert engineers, and I'll be able to get those answers for you. What's so important to me is that you get the most out of today's session. So let's lean in.
There are only two types of businesses, those that have been hacked and those that don't know they have. This is a quote that I have augmented that was made by Robert Mueller, who is the former director of the FBI, very famous for the scandals in the US around the election and so on, many years ago. But this is the unfortunate reality, and I do need to have a conversation with you today that is a little bit scary. I really don't want to fearmonger with you, but I would not be doing my duty if I didn't really bring to light the harsh realities of what's going on at the moment in the world of cybersecurity and cyber attacks. It's pretty scary. I probably don't need to say that too much, so I won't harp on it. But I really appreciate you leaning into this conversation. I'm going to highlight a little bit more about how scary it is out there, but guess what? We've got some really great solutions for you. And that's what we're here to really achieve for you. Give you some peace of mind to know that you're prepared as much as you possibly can to protect you, your business, your brand from an eventuation of a cyber attack or a cyber crime event. Now, I want you to think a little bit about your home security. So I'm loving to get people involved and moving. So at home, wherever you are, I want you to stand up right now. Just stand up for me, get that blood pumping, and stay standing if you have locks on your front door. I want you to stay standing if you've got locks on the windows. Stay standing if you've got security screens on your doors and windows. Stay standing if you've got an alarm in your house. Stay standing if it's back to base. All right. So I'm going to wager, you can pop into the chat now if you're still standing. We'll see how many people are still standing after all of those security layers. There's probably only a handful. And I have a question for you. Like, how many security measures do you have? You certainly have more than a lock on the door. I'll wager that. You've probably got locks on the windows as well. The important thing to remember that if you have not done all of the different layers that are required to protect your house. It's like leaving the door open, isn't it? So if you've got a lock on the door, but you leave the windows open or you don't have a locks on the windows, that's like you might as well leave the front door open as well. So the important conversation today is that this is really about layers of protection, layers of awareness. It's not just, oh, I've got the magic pill, I'm sorted and I'm protected. It really is. We need to continue to be vigilant. I'm about to play a really wonderful video for you that I think highlights this point just beautifully.
One of the issues is that every day you are unwittingly giving information away. There's an organisation called identityfraud.org.uk, and what I'm about to show you is a stunt that they did about 2 years ago to inform the public. And what you're about to see is somebody stood outside a coffee shop and they're encouraging people to like the coffee shop on their Facebook app. And in return for liking the coffee shop, you get a free coffee and a free pastry. Now, parked outside the coffee shop is a van with 2 people in it with laptops connected to the web. And what you're going to see in the time that it takes to deliver a coffee, just how much information can be found out about you purely by you going onto Facebook and liking a page. So take a look at this.
If you like our Facebook page, we give you a free hot drink and a free pastry.
We have a new like for Damien. We have a new like for Damien. Hey Carly, are you standing by?
Standing by. Hi there, can I help?
Yeah, I just liked your Facebook page.
Okay, I'll search Facebook
I'm
now.
searching Google.
Have a phone number.
I've got his email address.
Okay, Carly, are you ready for information on Damien?
Yep, I am.
Mother's maiden name is he banks with
Carly, this is the girl coming in now with the blue scarf.
What's her name? Nicholas.
Nicholas. His date of birth, 7th of May. She lives at 38A.
Just be a couple of seconds.
2 children at age 4 and 6. Previous address. She's got the postcode.
Yep, got it.
Thank you.
Damien, age 26 and a fitness instructor.
How do you know that?
Brody, who goes to UCL. Martin, who went to South Thames College. Assistant psychologist at Great Ormond Street. How did you know?
I don't understand.
Oh, pardon?
You know I'm a Christian as well.
Oh yeah, we know everything about you, Martin. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Anna from Russia.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen that video. I have run this presentation more than once, and I still get goosebumps when I see what's going on. I trust you're feeling the same. You've probably got some shivers running up and down your spine about how easy it is for cyber criminals to access your personal information based on just liking a page on social media. So it really is important to be so vigilant. We're going to uncover a little bit of background, maybe demystify a little for you what's going on with a cyber attack, what's going on behind the scenes, and more importantly, what we can do about it. Coming your way. Now, I told you I was trying not to scare you too much. So I'm going to do my best to create and lay out a reality of a situation for you in a slightly upbeat kind of fashion where I can. So good news, 5 out of 10, so that's half of Australian businesses were not hacked in 2021. Yeah, so look on the bright side. Half of Australian businesses got away without a cyber attack, or didn't report it anyway. And for the next 7 minutes, no cyber crimes are going to be reported in Australia. How about that? There you go. 7 minutes. 7 minutes knowing we're all safe, nothing's going to happen before we need to worry again. And this last one, I really don't know how to spin this in a positive way. So I'm just going to make this between the eyeballs. 40% of Australian businesses survive a data breach and continue to operate. So chances are, if you do suffer a cyber attack, your business will not survive beyond 3 months. Now, these statistics come from cyber.gov.au based on the cyber attack reports that were made last year. It is a scary situation. It's pretty dire out there. And I really do want to take a moment to make sure that we take this message in the spirit in which it's intended to be delivered, which is not to fearmonger. I don't want to unnecessarily scare you, but I really do need to be very brutal and honest about what the reality of not being as vigilant and as prepared as possible. And it doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be expensive. So I'm glad you've turned up. Let's just lay out what exactly a cyber attack is. It is an assault launched by cyber criminals using one or more computers against a single or multiple computer or network. A cyber attack can maliciously disable computers, steal data, or use a breached computer as a launch point for other attacks. And what we're talking about here is malware. This is the vast majority of what cyber attacks take place are because of a type of malware, which you've probably heard of the word malware before, but let me break it down a little bit for you, just so you've got this understanding of what's really going on. And there's a bunch of different types. There are bugs, which is a type of error, a flaw or failure that produces an undesirable or an unexpected result. So they typically exist in website source codes, and they can cause a wide range of damage. Worms rely on security failures to replicate and spread themselves to other computers. They often hide in attachments and will consume bandwidth and or overload a server. A virus is a piece of code that's loaded onto your website or your computer without your knowledge. It can easily multiply and be transmitted as an attachment or a file. Bots are software programs created to perform specific tasks. Bots can send spam or be used in a DDoS attack to bring down entire websites. Trojan horses disguise themselves as a normal file and tricks the users into downloading it. And in that act of downloading, it consequently installs another type of malware. Ransomware denies access to your files and demands payment through a cryptocurrency, usually Bitcoin, in order to access the files again. And this includes data as well. So this would be, I've got hold of your data, could be your personal details, credit card details, if you've got those in an unsecured way. And adware is a type of malware that automatically displays unwanted adverts. And if you click on these adverts, this is where it could redirect you to a malicious site. And then we're back to some of these other types of malware. And spyware is a type of malware that functions by spying on users' activities. And this includes monitoring your activities. So, for example, it'll monitor your keystrokes so that it can understand your passwords. So how does a cyber attack work? Well, it really does base itself on the hacker getting in. And those malwares that I just outlined are ways in which a hacker can get in. They will look for email. So this is why it's really important to be protective of your email accounts. And they will, potentially send you a phishing or some other kind of message through voicemail or SMS or through social media for you to better click on a link. That's usually how it works. So they get in and they install a virus or type of malware in there. They'll crack your password after that. So what happens here is they run a bot, a piece of automated software that just will run through thousands of options of passwords in a given second. This is why it's really important, guys, to have passwords that are tricky to be hacked. Now, the challenge with that is you want to try and remember your passwords so that it can't be too complicated, but you need to make them complicated so that the hackers can't guess them or crack them. But don't worry, stay tuned. I've got a fabulously easy solution for you on how to create passwords that are really, really robust and difficult to crack. Once they've cracked your password, they can start controlling your PC. They can spread the virus to neighboring computers. If it's a work computer, they can spread it then onto the server, and then they go for broke. This is where they will, ask for a ransom to be paid, or distribute that data on the web and get paid for someone to buy it. Now, you might think that, and I think social media and movies would probably, or Hollywood, would probably give you the impression that a hacker is a little kid sitting in their parents' basement, playing with code and experimenting for fun and just having a lark. And I'm certain that happens, but unfortunately, the reality is that hackers are very, very professional. They're very, very smart, and they're really quite clever. So let's talk a little bit about a life of a hacker in the day. They're very, very good at what they do. And this is another thing you've got to know. And it takes us back to the quote that we first indicated at the beginning. A hacker can access your system. So how I showed you how it happens, they can get in, crack your passwords, and be inside your computer and take control of it for days. And I'm not talking about 2 days or 3 days. I'm talking about hundreds of days. Learning what you do, watching what you do, learning your business, understanding your behavior, who you bank with, who your clients are. And they can sit there undetected, waiting for their moment to strike. And you have no idea that they're there. And they can do this using applications that are available freely online for a couple $100. Cybercrime last year cost Australian businesses trillions of dollars, and globally trillions and trillions of dollars. Most of these attacks were due to human error, clicking on a link they shouldn't have, or downloading something that they shouldn't have. So now that this has happened, what does a cyber attack look like? Well, here's an example of what you might see on your screen on your computer if you've been hacked. You'll get a message. This is one way it can happen. You'll get a message to say you need to pay Bitcoin to, or another kind of cryptocurrency, to this account. And once you do, we'll release your files. Now, here's the dilemma that you've got here. There really is a very tricky situation here, because just because they say they will doesn't mean they will. And they got in once doesn't mean they can't get in again. And then a week later, you get another attack. This has happened before, not to any of our clients, but I know this has happened to other people. So this is a dilemma. It will actually, if it hasn't already, it will soon be a criminal offence yourself to pay a hacker. So this really doesn't become a very clean option for you. Now, what we can do, if you've got a really great backup, we can actually just restore from backup. But here's the thing. An extensive check needs to be taken place to make sure that the backup isn't infected with a virus. So it isn't as simple as, oh, well, I'll just restore from backup. That can actually delay business days and days and days. Even if you do have a good backup, it does need to be checked to make sure that you're not just going to install another virus and get hacked again. And it isn't just the amount of money that you might need to pay a hacker, if that's what ends up happening, or the days or weeks that you might have lost productivity, lost the ability to work effectively. It's also what that says about your brand, the damage to the brand that takes place after a cyber attack. And you know what? It's such a dilemma. It's about what your clients and the public are saying about you and your brand. And it's such an injustice, because if you get broken into, your house gets broken into, you don't suffer the same kind of stigma that a business will suffer at the hands of a cyber criminal. And this is why so many businesses don't survive beyond a few months, because the impact to what their customers think about them is really, really strong, and ends up in lots of lost money and angry people as well if their data has been breached. Okay, so I feel like I'm going to make a marker here that this is really the end of the negative, scary stuff. We're going to focus now 100% on what can we do about it. It's a brand new shiny day. Let's get on with protecting ourselves and getting the better of the cyber criminals out there. Okay, so what actually are the risks? There's a few that you need to be aware of, and we're going to run through each of these and suggest some ways in which you can protect yourself. If you're using public Wi-Fi, if you're using USB keys, social media, if you're downloading software or making purchases from an unauthorized site, your mobile phone is a risk. Passwords are risky. There are phishing, vishing, and schmishing, and I'll go through all of those. URLs are a risk, and I'm sorry to say it, but you are too. I know, but it's your behavior, your vigilance that's really going to make the most difference to protecting each other from a cyber attack. Let's address public Wi-Fi. You would think that if you're connecting to public Wi-Fi that it's relatively safe, that a trusted brand such as Starbucks or McDonald's or Qantas have invested in a quality internet provider with the relevant checks and security measures. And you could be right. I would say, you know what? Why wouldn't they do that? Of course, they need to protect their own business. However, what happened with Starbucks, for example, wasn't Starbucks at all. What happened was a hacker was sitting inside the Starbucks coffee shop with an active and shareable public Wi-Fi called Starbucks public Wi-Fi. And so in error, some of the customers clicked on and joined onto that hacker's Wi-Fi network instead of the secure, actual authorized Starbucks Wi-Fi. And as a result, that hacker was able to observe what those customers were doing and start to install those viruses, those bots, to be able to monitor their behavior, crack their passwords, and so on and so forth. So there's a couple of things you can do here. Definitely don't access if you're a public Wi-Fi, don't access things like banking, internet banking, things of a confidential or secure nature. The other way you can do that is by using a VPN. So this is a piece of software that you can use to be able to hide your devices, in essence, and that can be a really good way to protect yourself if you need to access confidential information. Now, not many people use USBs anymore, but there's just something to really be aware of, is don't ever grab a USB you don't know where it's been. It may have a virus installed on it, and as soon as you plug it into your computer, off we go. So you do need to be very aware of USBs and know where they come from and where they've been. But it's also, they're easy to lose. So this isn't necessarily even just about cybercrime, but just security in general. So if you have sensitive information on, and you do need to keep it on a USB, then you can get encrypted and password protected USB. So make sure that you invest in those. And once you're done with that, with the need for that USB, make sure you wipe it so that there's no, confidential data lying around somewhere for someone else to access. Now, Social media is the favorite way for a hacker to send through URLs that will take you to a malicious website. So there's a couple of things that you can do to watch out for to make sure that the URL that's been shared with you is one that's safe to use. So you'll notice in your browser at the URL, you'll see a shield and a padlock. These are indicators that the website that you're about to visit has the necessary security protocols installed to protect the information that if you're going to exchange information on that website. The other way to know as well is that there's an S after that HTTP. There will be an S for security. That's another way to know that the website URL that you're accessing is secure and legitimate and it isn't malicious. Now, the other threat is downloading applications. So you might have, for example, someone at home, might be a roommate or a kid who likes to play games, and they might download their games from a website that has malicious code installed in those downloads. So definitely having conversations in the family if you've got young kids at home to make sure that they're really aware of what that looks like. And also, where possible, and I think you should be able to do this 100% of the time really, is only purchase or download software applications from a trusted source, such as the Apple Store or Google Play, those sorts of official Play stores. You can be safe knowing that you're downloading something that isn't going to have any sort of malicious software, malicious malware in it. Your mobile phone is a threat. They're fairly secure with facial recognition, thumbprints, bio identifiers. They're pretty secure, but they can listen to your conversations. They can also access your device if you download malicious software. So never, ever download, if anyone's asking you to download software so that they can help you, never, ever download software from a website they're giving you. Only ever use approved software. You can turn off Bluetooth and Wi-Fi if you're not using those functions. It will save you battery life too, which is not a bad idea. Make sure that you're using a password or a PIN code that's difficult to remember. We're going to touch on that as well. And the other thing is to make sure that your system is up to date. Sometimes your devices, and this goes for all of your devices, not just mobile phones, will automatically update themselves. Windows is shutting down. We need an update. I appreciate these can be frustrating and a bit time consuming, but they're so, so important. And let me explain why. We're in a constant cat and mouse game when it comes to cyber criminals, and they are ahead. Now, if you've ever had an update, it's because it's improving the device. So it might have been that they found a bug or a different improvement. Might have also been found out that there was a opening there for a hacker to be able to get in. There was a gap in the security protocols that would allow a hacker to get in. So they update those devices, or they make you update them so that they can close those gaps. Now, how do you think they found out about the gap in the first place? There's really only one way, which is to proactively try and hack. Now, there's two different ways we can do that. We can employ, and many, many companies do this. They pay a lot of money to engage with what's referred to as white hat hackers, who are ethical hackers who look for vulnerabilities and who then can be remediated and closed in a proactive fashion. It's very expensive and it's human, so it takes time for them to look for all of the different ways versus a hacker who's using different sorts of software and so on. They can find a vulnerability and exploit it, and that's how we find out about it. So it is such a cat and mouse game. Do keep your devices up to date. I'd like to play Let's Go Fish. According to our research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be at the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. And this fundamental fact about humans is what hackers really, really rely on and exploit. Phishing, you're probably aware of this. You've probably heard of phishing attacks. On average, a business will receive thousands of potentially malicious emails every year, most of which are, if you've got a good email provider, such as Microsoft, and you've got the right security protocols added in as well, will do a very good job of editing those out and putting them into the spam box. Invariably, though, there'll be one or two that get through. So it's really important that you are vigilant and aware of what to look out for when it comes to a phishing attack. So just have a moment here, and I'd love for you to pop into the chat exactly what you see here in terms of threats. Okay, some really good answers coming through, so I'll start to run through them. Well, number one is the spelling. I trust you can all see that my university is spelt with a 5, not an S. So that can be a bit tricky. So watch out for the sorts of spelling. The greeting, dear network user, usually emails are sent to an actual human name. So that's something to be aware of, dear network user. The sense of urgency. So it's expiring in a day, you've got 24 hours. Usually these sorts of attacks have some kind of sense of urgency. The signature, my universe network security staff, I don't know. That doesn't seem particularly authentic to me. And the header versus the email address. So you'll see my university spelt with an S, but the university email is spelt with a 5. So that's another clue. Then there's vishing, and this is a voicemail. If someone calls and says, or voice activated fish, someone calls and says they're from the Commonwealth Bank or the tax department, and you've got to answer a few security questions. Then the best thing you can do is get a phone number and call them back, or call the bank directly and ask why someone would be contacting you regarding your account. For example, just the other day, I had a voicemail from the Australian Taxation Department saying that they needed to speak to me urgently about my account and that I would need to provide some security information. So the first thing I did was I jumped on the MyGov website. I went to the tax department and there was no messages from them in my inbox. And then I rang them and they confirmed that they were not trying to get in touch with me about anything. So just be very aware that this is what happens. It can happen within organizations as well. There's been situations where the CEO has rung, the accounts junior saying that they needed to get this invoice paid immediately, pay it urgently. It's a must, it's a must. And it turned out to be a social engineering exercise by a hacker. So, all good. It's easy to address. No problem, Mr. CEO. I'll call you straight back, and call them on their mobile and confirm that they were actually wanting to do that. And then smishing, which is the lovely SMS. So this is an example of one that I received not so long ago. Everyone's ordering online so much, and I still shop online quite a lot. And so I was expecting a parcel actually. And then I looked at, I was like, I looked at that that URL and I couldn't see an S, UPRNS. I was thinking it would be from the post office or from Star Trek or some other kind of courier company that I knew. So I grabbed that particular reference number, the YF number, and I put that into my email address to see whether or not I had a reference pertaining to that, which I didn't. So I promptly marked this as spam and blocked them and reported them. Passwords, of course, are the thing, the golden nugget that a hacker is after. Passwords to anything. Now, it made my skin crawl and my chills go up and down my spine. I visited a business the other day where PayPal details for the CEO were kept on the desk of a colleague with his password and his email address. Well, I can tell you, I did make a joke at their expense about wanting to go shopping. This is not the way to store passwords. Please don't ever write down your passwords onto a post-it and hand it to a colleague. Don't ever leave it hanging up on the wall for the cleaners, visitors, anyone to see. This is how cybercrime can also occur. We're going to talk about two things now. We're going to talk about having secure passwords and having a password management, a way to manage those passwords as well. And I've got a little bit of a challenge for you right now. Head on over to this website, security.org/how-secure-is my password, dashes all in between. I'll post that in the comments for you. And check how secure your password is. For example, Welcome One it would be hacked instantly. Welcome 2022 hacked instantly. Something like your business name 2022, 2023, and then you change it to 2024. These are all passwords that would be able to be hacked instantly. What you want to do is have your password take a long time. Billions of years. Hackers don't have that much time. They're not interested. They're just going to keep moving on to the next password, onto the next potential victim. So they'll give your passwords a crack for a week or so, see if they can crack it. If they can't, they'll move on. Nice and easy to keep a secure password, nice and easy to make it complicated. I'm about to share how. The challenge with password management is this. Number one, it needs to be complicated. It needs to be convoluted for someone to be able to hack it. It needs to be long. It needs to have lots of different variables going on inside it. The challenge with that is humans don't remember random digits and random letters and special characters all that well. We're not great at it. Some people are, bless their cotton socks. But if you're anything like me, I can't do it. And so for many years, a long, long time ago, before I became aware of these conversations, I used to have things like, Welcome One as my password. And it's just not kosher. So the key here is to make sure that we have passwords that are complicated but easy to remember. Now, how do humans remember things well? Well, the biology of the human brain is that we're extremely visual creatures. So making a password visual, stay with me, I'm going to enlighten you, is how you can make it complicated and easy to remember. For example, thinking of two random objects like a dog and a skateboard, and a color like the red wheels, and a number like the number of letters in the word dog, and a special character like the number 3, because that's how many letters are in the word dog, and the 3 has a hashtag. So all of a sudden, we've got an extremely complicated password for a hacker to hack. However, That's super easy for you to remember. So I'm going to take you through how to do this. I'm going to give you an example. For example, here is an example of a password that would take 2 million years for a hacker to crack. Trust me, they're not going to hang around for 2 million years. They're just going to keep moving. First things first, think of 2 random objects. For example, button apple. Very random, nice and easy to remember. Button apple. The first letter is going to be the capital. So we've got button apple, but with a capital B. The number of the letters in the first word. Well, button has 6 letters, so it's going to be button apple 6. Then the special character above the number. So the number 6 is an upwards arrow. Button apple 6 upwards arrow. So I don't need to remember this password. I just need to remember the formula and my 2 objects, and that's it. And the rest of it, I can work it out. Nice and easy. I promise you that if you use this technique, it will be virtually impossible for a hacker to hack that password. But not impossible, but virtually impossible. So I do encourage you to use that as a nice, easy tool to create passwords that are complex, almost impossible to crack, but really easy to remember. Okay. I trust now that we've come full circle and we've talked about all of the different threats. There's only one more left, and I'm about to come to that we can now see how many different layers of protection we need to be able to secure ourselves and protect our business and our personal information. Okay, now I'd like you to stick your pointy finger up in the air, your index finger up into the air, and point to the person in your room who is ultimately responsible for protecting themselves and the business from a cyber attack. If it was you and you pointed to yourself, you would be correct. You, my friend, are the best line of defense. I'm sorry. I wish I could say it was your antivirus or it was your, other things that you've got going on, your multi-factor authentication. I hope you've got that sorted as well. I wish I could say it was those things, but it's not. It's you. Ultimately, you need to be making sure that you are closing the door, tightening up the security in your awareness so that you know what to look out for in the eventuation that a cyber criminal tries to get the better of you. Don't be that person. Be prepared. Couple of things that you can do is, number one, invest in a password management tool. One of the ones that we use is called MyGlue. And what that does is it securely, behind one password, securely stores all passwords. And what's really beautiful is you can share these passwords with others, and they don't even need to have to see what the password is. They can just copy the password and log into whatever it is that you guys need to, if you're sharing an application, for example. And you can, if they get changed, everyone has access to the changed password. It's a fabulous way where needed to be able to store and share passwords securely. Here's another thing you can do. Enable multi-factor authenticator, 2-factor authenticator on everything you possibly can. The reason I say that, and I'll give you a live example, somebody tried to jump into my PayPal account yesterday and I got a SMS saying, here's your 2-factor code. And guess what? That hacker didn't get that code, so they couldn't get in. They just can't get in. So great. I have peace of mind knowing that if someone knows what my email address is and tries to put my email address into PayPal, has my password, they can't get through because they've not got the multi-factor authenticator. That's really, really, really important. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and change my password, I did it already, immediately changed my password anyway, because I don't want them knowing my password, even though they can't get into PayPal anyway. Look, I appreciate that it's a little inconvenient to have to go and get my phone and put in a code, but geez, what could have happened? The average cost of a cybercrime to an Australian consumer is $20,000. For 20 grand, could we just make amends with the fact that we've got to put in a code every now and again? Can I just have a big sort of kumbaya moment with everybody that we join hands and make peace with having to put a code in to protect ourselves and to protect our business? Once they've hacked your password and they know that's what it is, do you think he was going to stop at PayPal? Hell no. He was going to be, or she, actually, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, could go anywhere from there. And the unfortunate truth is that many times we have the same password for different applications. So, this is just so simple. It's free, doesn't cost you anything to implement except a little bit of inconvenience, but can go such a long way to protecting you and your business. I'm going to conclude by coming back to where we began. There are only two types of businesses, those that have been hacked and those that don't know they have. I trust that we've covered over a number of things that you can do to protect yourself and your business. Simple things, be vigilant, be aware, and make sure that you use my secure password strategy. Make sure that you enable MFA on everything you possibly can, and that will go a long way to protecting you from becoming one of those horrible statistics that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation. Now, I would love for us to have a conversation and chat further about how we might be able to help you elevate your cybersecurity posture in simple, easy, and effective ways. So I really encourage you to reach out to us here and let's have a conversation about how we can elevate you. Have an amazing day, and thanks so much for joining us.